the Roman Empire, a name that echoes through history. It speaks of legions, emperors, and a civilization that shaped Western civilization. At its heart lay Rome, a city pulsing with life, ambition, and danger. The Roman Empire was vast and complex, held together by the legions and the emperor's will, yet beneath the veneer of order a darker current stirred. Power struggles, conspiracies, and betrayals were common. In this world, one man's name would become synonymous with tyranny and madness: Caligula. Caligula's path to the throne was paved with opportunity and danger. The early death of his father cast a shadow over his childhood. His mother, Agrippina the Elder, fought to secure her children's position, but her defiance led to her downfall. Exiled and later murdered, she became a martyr, a stark reminder of the emperor's ruthlessness. Amidst these events, young Caligula witnessed the true cost of power. In 37 AD, at 24, Caligula ascended to the throne. The Roman people, weary of Tiberius's reign, greeted him with open arms. Beneath the surface of this charming facade, a darker nature lurked. Rumors spread like wildfire through Rome. Whispers of strange behavior, erratic pronouncements, and growing paranoia gripped their young emperor. Tales of lavish banquets descending into debauchery and bizarre pronouncements shocked even the most hardened observers. Some dismissed these tales as fabrications, but others saw a more sinister truth. They saw a man teetering on the edge of madness, consumed by power. The stage was set for a reign of terror that would forever etch Caligula's name into history. Born in 12 AD, Gaius, as Caligula was originally known, entered a world of immense power and intrigue. His father, Germanicus, was a beloved military hero and favoured heir of Emperor Tiberius. His mother, Agrippina the Elder, was a granddaughter of Augustus, known for her strong will. Young Gaius's early years were spent amidst the splendour of the imperial court. He was adored by the legions, who nicknamed him Caligula, meaning little boots. However, this idyllic childhood was shattered by tragedy. In 19 AD, Germanicus died under mysterious circumstances, and Agrippina the Elder was exiled and later died. The young Caligula witnessed his mother's persecution and the destruction of his family. After his mother's exile, Caligula and his siblings were separated and sent to live with various relatives. Caligula spent his adolescence under the watchful eye of his great-grandmother, Livia Drusilla. Livia's household was a crucible where ambition and suspicion thrived. During these formative years, Caligula learned to navigate the treacherous waters of Roman politics. In 31 AD, at 19, Caligula was summoned by Tiberius to Capri. Tiberius, now paranoid and distrustful, ruled through fear and intimidation. Caligula had to tread carefully to avoid the fate of his mother and brothers. Tiberius died in 37 AD, sparking a power struggle. Tiberius had named his grandson Gemellus and Caligula as joint heirs. Caligula, shrewd and ambitious, outmaneuvered his rivals. He secured the support of the Praetorian Guard and had Gemellus executed. The Roman people, weary of Tiberius's rule, welcomed Caligula with open arms. The Senate bestowed upon him the title of Augustus and granted him absolute power. Caligula's accession marked the beginning of a new era. The early months of Caligula's reign were marked by optimism. He recalled exiles, reduced taxes, and abolished treason trials. He staged lavish games and gladiatorial contests, showering the populace with gifts. Caligula's popularity soared, hailed as a just and generous ruler. The Senate, initially wary, was charmed by his respect for their authority. He restored public processions and religious festivals, presenting himself as a pious ruler. Little did they know that this facade masked a darker nature. The honeymoon period of Caligula's reign was short-lived. Whispers of strange behavior started to circulate, painting a picture of an emperor increasingly detached from reality. His extravagance knew no bounds, draining the imperial treasury. He commissioned vast villas, opulent gardens, and even a floating palace on Lake Nemi. His lavish banquets transformed into legendary feats of gluttony and extravagance. Stories spread of Caligula's reckless disregard for the empire's resources. The once admired generosity began to look like dangerous indulgence. Caligula's eccentricities extended beyond material indulgence. He developed a penchant for the bizarre and the cruel, indulging in shocking spectacles. He staged elaborate gladiatorial games, forcing senators and their wives to fight. He appointed his favorite horse, Incitatus, to the Senate, providing him with a marble stable. His pronouncements became increasingly erratic and delusional. He declared himself a living god, demanding worship and ordering temples erected in his honor. These actions began to take on a more sinister aspect. Caligula's obsession with his own divinity grew stronger. He saw himself as a god amongst men, deserving of absolute obedience. His demands for worship escalated, and those who failed to show reverence risked his wrath. He had statues of himself erected in temples, replacing the heads of other gods. He embarked on military campaigns to indulge his fantasies, further depleting the treasury. His paranoia deepened, and he saw enemies everywhere. The once vibrant court transformed into a viper's nest of paranoia and fear. Behind the opulent walls of his palace, Caligula's behavior became increasingly depraved. Rumors of orgies, incest, and sadistic punishments spread throughout Rome. He indulged in every conceivable pleasure, his appetite for excess insatiable. He forced senators' wives to become his mistresses, flaunting his conquests. He reportedly took pleasure in torture, often personally inflicting pain. The once grand halls of power had become a den of iniquity. His reign had descended into a nightmare of tyranny and madness. Caligula's erratic behavior began to erode his carefully crafted image. The once adoring crowds now watched with fear and morbid fascination. The Senate grew increasingly uneasy. The whispers of discontent began to echo louder within the halls of power. The financial burden of Caligula's excesses weighed heavily on the empire. His military campaigns proved disastrous, exposing his detachment from reality. His soldiers grew weary of his erratic commands and questioned his sanity. As Caligula's grip on reality loosened, his grip on power tightened. He became increasingly suspicious, seeing enemies everywhere. He surrounded himself with informants and sycophants, rewarding those who fed his paranoia. Treason trials were reinstated with a vengeance. Senators were reduced to groveling at the emperor's feet. The reign of terror extended beyond the palace walls. The once vibrant social fabric of Rome began to unravel, replaced by fear and suspicion. Within the Senate, a hotbed of ambition and intrigue, whispers of conspiracy began to circulate. Senators, once rivals for power, found common cause in their shared fear and resentment of the emperor. They met in secret, their faces hidden in the shadows, their voices hushed, plotting to rid themselves of the tyrant who held their lives in his hands. Among the conspirators were Cassius Chaerea, a tribune of the Praetorian Guard, and Marcus Vinicius, a senator with a personal grudge against the emperor. They recognized that any attempt on Caligula's life would be fraught with danger. He was well guarded, prone to fits of paranoia, and capable of extreme violence. Success would require meticulous planning, unwavering resolve, and a healthy dose of luck. As the conspiracy gained momentum, the conspirators faced a crucial question: who would replace Caligula? Some argued for a return to a republic, but this idea lacked widespread support. Others favored installing a new emperor, someone who possessed the lineage, the temperament, and the political acumen to restore order and stability to the empire. In 41 AD, after 4 years of increasingly erratic and tyrannical rule, Caligula's reign reached a bloody climax. The emperor, oblivious to the plot brewing against him, continued to indulge his whims and terrorize his subjects. He had alienated the Senate, impoverished the empire, and instilled fear in the hearts of his people. He had crossed a line, and there was no turning back. The conspirators, sensing their opportunity, decided to act. They chose the annual Palatine Games, a time of celebration and spectacle, as their moment to strike. Amidst the crowds and the chaos, Caligula, distracted and vulnerable, would meet his end. The stage was set for a dramatic and bloody act of regicide, one that would send shockwaves through the Roman Empire and forever etch Caligula's name into the annals of history as the embodiment of tyranny and madness. Caligula's descent into madness ushered in a reign of terror. Fear became the emperor's preferred instrument of control. Caligula unleashed violence, sparing no one. The blood of innocents stained Rome's streets. Paranoia turned friends into foes. Accusations of treason were common. Trials were swift and brutal. Victims met gruesome ends. Executions became grotesque spectacles. Beheadings, burnings, and crucifixions were common. Caligula's reign of terror was not merely the product of a madman's whims. It was a calculated strategy designed to consolidate his power and crush any hint of dissent. He understood that fear, wielded effectively, could be a more potent weapon than any legion. By instilling terror in the hearts of his subjects, he aimed to silence opposition, ensure obedience, and elevate himself to the status of a living god above question or reproach. The Senate, once a bastion of Roman power and tradition, found itself utterly emasculated. Senators, stripped of their authority and forced to witness the emperor's depravity, were reduced to trembling sycophants, their every word and action dictated by fear. Those who dared to voice even the mildest dissent disappeared into the bowels of the imperial dungeons, their fates unknown but easily imagined. The Roman elite, once accustomed to a life of privilege and influence, learned to navigate the treacherous currents of Caligula's court with a mix of obsequious flattery and silent dread. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of Caligula's reign of terror was his perverse sense of humor. He seemed to derive a sadistic pleasure from toying with his victims, subjecting them to humiliation and psychological torture before delivering the final blow. He reveled in the spectacle of their suffering, their fear a source of amusement for a mind warped by absolute power. He was known to invite senators to private dinners, only to subject them to hours of verbal abuse and threats before dismissing them, their nerves shattered, their reputations in tatters. He would bestow lavish gifts on favoured courtiers, only to confiscate their property or imprison them on trumped-up charges days later, turning their joy into ashes in their mouths. Even his own family members were not immune to his cruel games. He reportedly forced his sisters to witness his orgies, subjecting them to unimaginable degradation and humiliation. He accused his own grandmother, Antonia Minor, of plotting against him, driving her to suicide rather than face his wrath. The Reign of Terror cast a long shadow over Rome, transforming the once vibrant capital of the world into a city cowering in fear. The streets, once bustling with commerce and social life, emptied after dark as citizens retreated to the supposed safety of their homes, fearful of attracting the emperor's attention. The air, once filled with the sounds of laughter, music, and political debate, grew heavy with silence, punctuated only by the tramp of soldiers' boots and the screams of the condemned. Informers, their eyes and ears attuned to any hint of dissent, lurked in every shadow, eager to exchange whispers and rumors for the emperor's favor. Neighbors, once bound by community and shared experience, now eyed each other with suspicion, fearful of becoming entangled in the web of paranoia that ensnared the city. The Reign of Terror permeated every aspect of Roman life, poisoning relationships, stifling creativity, and extinguishing the flame of hope. Rome, once a beacon of civilization and progress, had become a prison of its own making, ruled by a madman whose thirst for power knew no bounds. The question was not if Caligula's reign would end, but how much damage he would inflict before the inevitable reckoning arrived. Caligula's assassination in 41 AD sent shockwaves through the Roman Empire. While the news was met with relief by many, it also unleashed a wave of uncertainty and anxiety. The Roman people now faced a power vacuum at the heart of their world. The memory of Caligula's reign lingered like a bad omen, casting a shadow over the future. The empire Caligula left behind was a far cry from the one he had inherited. The treasury, depleted by his extravagant spending, lay in ruins. The once efficient bureaucracy, crippled by his paranoia, struggled to function. The army, demoralized by defeats, posed a potential threat to stability. But the most enduring legacy of Caligula's reign was the psychological scar it left on Roman society. The fear and suspicion he had so carefully cultivated did not vanish overnight. The networks of informers, the casual betrayals, the instinct to remain silent, these toxic remnants of his rule continued to poison relationships. The Roman people, once proud citizens of the world's greatest empire, had been reduced to subjects, cowed by the memory of tyranny. For the Roman Senate, Caligula's death represented an opportunity to reclaim its lost power and prestige. The senators, so recently humiliated and terrorized, emerged from the shadow of the tyrant with a renewed sense of purpose. They moved swiftly to erase the memory of Caligula's reign, condemning his acts as the product of madness and declaring him a public enemy. His statues were torn down, his name was chiseled away from public inscriptions, and his laws were revoked. The Senate, eager to reassert its authority, sought to portray Caligula as an aberration, a monstrous interruption in the otherwise glorious lineage of Roman emperors. They hoped that by condemning his memory to oblivion, they could restore their own authority and heal the wounds inflicted on the Roman state. However, the process of restoring order and stability would prove to be a daunting task. The empire was still reeling from the shock of Caligula's reign, and the scars of his tyranny ran deep. The new emperor, whoever he may be, would inherit a legacy of suspicion and fear, a depleted treasury, and a populace yearning for a return to normalcy. In the chaotic aftermath of Caligula's assassination, Claudius emerged as the new emperor. Dismissed as weak, Claudius surprised many by seizing power. Found trembling by the Praetorian Guard, he was proclaimed emperor. Claudius proved to be a shrewd and capable ruler. He restored stability and order to the empire. Claudius appeased the army and replenished the treasury. He initiated public works and legal reforms. His reign marked a period of peace and prosperity. Claudius restored normalcy after Caligula's excesses. He expanded the empire and oversaw economic growth, yet Caligula's memory haunted the empire, a reminder of power's fragility. Despite the Senate's attempts to erase his memory, Caligula became a legend, synonymous with cruelty and madness. His reign, though brief, served as a cautionary tale of absolute power's corruption. Historians grapple with the enigma of Caligula, separating fact from fiction. Was he mad or a product of his time? Caligula's impact on the Roman psyche was undeniable. He became a symbol of the dark side of power, a cautionary tale whispered in palaces and debated by philosophers. Caligula's reign serves as a reminder of civilization's fragility and potential for tyranny. His story fascinates and horrifies, showing the thin line between order and chaos. Caligula's ghost haunts us, a reminder of power's seductive nature and potential depravity. Caligula. The name itself conjures images of depravity, madness, and cruelty. His reign is a cautionary tale of unchecked power etched in history. Stories of his excesses and cruelty have horrified for centuries. But was he truly the monster history remembers, or a victim of circumstance distorted by time and enemies? Caligula's reign serves as a timeless warning about the corrupting nature of absolute power. His story reminds us that even in civilized societies, the thirst for power can transform individuals and unleash chaos. The Roman Empire was not immune to tyranny, and neither are we. Caligula's legacy transcends ancient history. His name is synonymous with the abuse of power. His reign is a touchstone for exploring the dark side of human nature. From Shakespeare to modern-day dictators, the spectre of Caligula looms large. His story is a stark reminder of the importance of accountability and the rule of law. It urges us to remain vigilant against authoritarianism and to safeguard the institutions that protect our freedoms.